do the sex.
Today's locker room talk topic is two women, rubbers, a bunch of cocks, and how Jems is disrupting the condom industry. My guest today is Yasemin Emory, co-founder of Jems Condoms and Sex Ed platform. Her partner, Whitney Geller, cannot be with us today, but Yasemin is going to share her journey as a woman creating a product that comes out of an industry that is male-dominated, and I think arguably rooted in misogyny and toxic masculinity. Yasemin, will you take a moment to introduce yourself to my listeners?
Hi there. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I'm Yasemin, and I am the co-founder of Jems, alongside my partner Whitney. And we actually have been working together for over 10 years. We founded a design company. We were based in New York initially, moved to Toronto, and we have been working alongside a number of different startups, companies in various industries, and we've always been interested in consumer packaged goods. So when the idea struck, we decided to launch our own company, our own product company, Jems. So we're thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I can't wait to get into this conversation about why you chose condoms and how it's gone and so on and so forth. So I was a little sad and jealous as I met with Yasemin ahead of time to find out what we were drinking together. It's 2 a.m. Fuck. It's 2 p.m. on a Monday here. I'm still on my coffee. I considered spiking it prior to this podcast, but decided to be a good girl. And then I found out my dear guest rose to the occasion with wine.
A glass of red wine.
I'm so jealous.
And it's 5 p.m. here, so that's why.
That's her excuse. She never drinks wine before 5. So let's raise our glasses and get ready to talk about, well, sex and condoms. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. I am just fucking intrigued. First of all, Yasemin, I just want to let you know, as I was like looking into Jems and finding out more about it, a lot of things did occur to me for me around condoms. Like the stigma, it does. When I think of condoms, I do kind of think of like 80s porn. I mean, that it's weird. I never really thought about it in depth, but I realized there is this kind of feeling around condoms and so on and so forth. So I'm really curious about your views on the toxicity around condoms, what that is in the industry, and how you think it affects people purchasing condoms.
Let's get into it.
Yes.
There's so much in terms of the design, color, layout, and copy that reinforce a very specific idea of masculinity and sex in general, and it is so problematic. When we found ourselves in the condom aisle with this idea sort of in its nascency, we just really couldn't get over that the aisle has not changed since well before we first started going to it in our adolescence. And, there's male torsos, black satin sheets, horses as logos, words like Magnum, Performax, King, Mega Big Boy. These are real. I've seen each and every one of these on condom packaging. It's truly shocking. And I think the fact that performance is so heavily weaved into condoms, already they're seen as a barrier to good sex, to free sex. And the fact that we use words like performax as something that this is going to make you perform better, that's a lot to put on somebody, and to sort of already in a situation that can be to some stressful or nerve-wracking or awkward. It's a lot to weave in that idea. So I think those were some of the things that really stuck out to us that we wanted to address when we were rethinking, the product and the packaging, of course.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that It is interesting too that those words are used so much when I have found I was thinking about my history with condom use and trying to get people to use condoms. And I mean, still to this day. So I started having sex as an adolescent. I've had a lot of sex with a lot of people throughout my life. Still to this day, I think we think of it as a youthful cis man thing to be like, I can't feel anything when I use a condom. But that it is prevalent in my experience. I can only refer to cis males.
Mm-hmm.
That's a prevalent thing. I can't get it up. I won't stay up. I won't feel anything. Yeah, I can use one. I don't really like it, but I can't really feel anything. And in my experience, I've definitely had quite a few partners who literally couldn't keep it up with a condom
Mm.
on. And I cannot fucking believe it has to do with that, the actual thin layer of latex. I wonder about the mental aspect of it.
I think that's exactly right. I think there's a lot of pressure in that moment, and that often it's that moment. We talk about this a lot where we want to see that moment of putting on a condom shown more in public, um, in media, in on TV shows, in movies, where to destigmatize that moment, because I think a lot of people fear that moment too,
Mm-hmm.
that something's going to be lost in that moment, and you're not going to be able to continue or perform. We really like to emphasize this notion of pleasure being enhanced when you've taken away things that you could otherwise focus on. So, for instance, if you're worried about whether it's pregnancy, STIs, or whatever, or just even just pH balance, because that's an issue for a lot of women as well. So if you take away that risk, that concern, we really believe that's when pleasure can be enhanced, that sort of uninhibited enjoyment of sex, and that sort of taking not all the risk, but some of the risk away. So we love to like focus on that idea as the conversation to have in that instance where, if you can say, hey, this is really, it makes me feel so free, so uninhibited, and I can do anything I want because I know that I'm having safer sex. That's kind of the angle we like to take with it instead of that fear mongering angle of, STIs are so high, or I could get pregnant. You don't want to focus on
Mm-hmm.
those things necessarily because that's just kind of from coming from a place of fear, but really just this idea of we want to open it up, enhance the experience, and really, you know, make it as pleasurable as possible.
Do you feel that sort of the toxic environment that the condoms are created in is part of the reluctance for people to use them? Do you think that that affects usage?
I think that the way in which they've been marketed is probably a reaction to not being widely embraced. But I think at this stage, the fact that it hasn't been re-examined and rethought, well, what do people today want to see and what do they need? And how can we help educate, inform, and normalize condom use in a way that's relatable, relevant, and effective? Whereas I think just what we've been doing for years and years just clearly isn't working. And we know this because condom use is actually down. So,
Well, that's interesting because I'm sure sex isn't. I,
exactly.
I want to rewind a little something that you brought up, and it might be a little off topic, but not really. I like how you brought up pH balance. Uh, Women get BV yeast infections quite often.
Hmm.
It's very prevalent. It's something we don't talk about. It's embarrassing. I think it makes a lot of women feel dirty and ashamed. I
Hmm.
know as a young woman, I struggled with them quite a bit, and never once was sperm or semen contributed to as the source of it.
Right.
Until one point, I had a partner. I could not have sex with this person without getting a yeast infection. It was a nightmare. And it definitely led to our breakup to some extent on my end because I started to go, it has to be this person's penis that's fucking my world up. So I have never seen marketing around it helping with a woman's pH balance. Hey, you want to have sex? You don't want to be itching and, shoving something up your vagina the next day to even things out. Use a condom. In fact, I think the dialogue on pH balance in women's vaginas or in vulva owners' vaginas it's new
It is.
having dicks and cum as the cause.
It's so true. I definitely think this is an area that is totally exploding. BV, I think also endocrine disruptors is something that's coming up again and again. And it's something we are looking into in terms of our decision to use silicone lube has to do with the fact that it doesn't impact your pH balance and it also is not an endocrine disruptor. So those are two things that are very important to us. Again, to us, it really all comes back to this idea of sex education as failing because we think of sex, or typically sex education has been thought of as what's the anatomy, what's the process, and what's the end result. And we are taking such a much more expansive view of it. And I think it has to do with women understanding pH balance, for that matter, men understanding pH balance of women if they're engaging in sexual intercourse with women. So there's so many things that we are tackling from an education perspective because information is power. The more you know, and there are endless reasons to use a condom, that being just one of them.
Right. So, listeners, just to clarify for you, not only is Jems a woman owned, woman created condom brand, their website also is a sex education platform where you can go to learn a whole bunch of things that you will be shocked to know as an adult you don't know about sex, which is cool because I think that something I've learned doing this podcast over the last 2 years is I am shocked at how little I know about sex
Mm-hmm.
and my body and orgasms and pleasure and options. My experience, my knowledge set has expanded profoundly over the last year, which has, of course, improved my sex life and
That's
a whole bunch of
amazing.
things. I think that it's important to talk about the lack of education and how it does focus on how to make babies. How to make babies. It doesn't focus on pleasure. It doesn't focus on consent. It doesn't focus
Mm-hmm.
on all of the other things that come from sex, mental health, emotional health, and we are failing our youth and everyone who's having sex in that way. So you're going to want to stay tuned and check out that platform. Now, I guess what keeps going on in my mind, and I hear there's a reason for and a need for women to be in this industry, but what in God's name made you go, hey, I know. I want to get into the condom business. Like, I have been trying to envision these two women hanging out going, well, let's do some product. Hey, how about rubbers? Let's go for the rubbers.
Well, you're definitely not the first person to be surprised.
Yeah.
Um, it came to us basically because it was a need. So Whitney literally called me from the condom aisle and she said, "What condom do you use?" And I don't know, kind of whatever's out there, whatever my husband, it's the we talk about what cream we use, we talk about what preferred olive oil we use. I mean, there's nothing we don't consider as consumers, but we just hadn't had this conversation. And she was truly shocked to see the state of the condom aisle. She was in between pregnancies. So it was this real aha moment where, and again, we come from a design and communication background. And so we quickly, not only did we realize we weren't the only people who felt completely alienated and unrepresented in this aisle, our mind immediately went to so many more who are not included in this aisle, problematically so. And the fact that, specifically a younger demographic who's coming of age, who is the most vulnerable in terms of, STI statistics, that this is what they're confronting when they go to buy condoms. So, we did our research, we looked into it, we found the world's top condom manufacturer, And we just decided to create a product that was stripped of everything except for what was truly essential. So natural latex, 100% silicone lube, that's it. So we didn't, no flavors, no colors, no benzocaine for that numbing effect, no spermicide, just
Can,
really just
can I slow you down a little bit?
sure.
Because I don't think people actually know they just are like, most of the time they go into the aisle, they're like instantly overwhelmed and they just grab a package unless they've found a specific size or brand that they just know is a go-to. Let's break that down. What
Yeah.
typically was in the condoms and that led to your decision of bringing it back to the basics? Now, I do know that there used to be this, what was it called? Non-oxidol 9 or something,
Yes.
chemical they'd put on it.
Minoxidil.
And, oh my God, one time I used one of those and the itching and burning was like instant.
So that is in fact the problem because another realization we had was that no condom company is required to list the ingredients.
Mm.
So not only are they using ingredients that can cause reactions like the one you had, but
Hmm.
you actually can't even see that it's there. So that was also a goal for us was to use our package as basically a way to list front and center what the ingredients are so people know exactly what's in it. Uh, I think, benzocaine is that numbing agent. If you ever see fire and ice, if you ever see last, like Performax to make you last longer, typically they use that to basically give a numbing effect, which in theory is supposed to, and again, I think this is always with, you know, the penis bearer in mind, but make you last longer.
Right.
So, that was something we did a focus group. That was something we heard. Again, somebody in high school, they went to the aisle, grabbed not the least expensive, not the most expensive, just grabbed sort of that middle range, and they had a reaction to this numbing agent. And so we just really wanted to flip the whole thing on its head, make it very clear what's in there or specifically what's not in there so that we could make the choice easier, especially for those who are uncomfortable in being in that aisle, which is a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It does feel dirty, oddly enough, but I think it's because it's got that 80s porn.
Well, this
Bow
is it.
chicka wow, you know?
One thing we're working on is we have silicone cases. We have so our silicone case is designed to fit our 3 pack and it can be sold with the 3 pack in it. But in general, a little known fact is, you want to protect your condoms a little bit when you're carrying them. You don't that age old put it in your wallet or back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
It could result in degradation or getting punctured. So we've made those silicone laces to really be a sort of lifestyle extension to the brand and help retailers think about merchandising condoms as well because our argument is get us out of the condom aisle. We want to be at checkout. We want to be at the back to college, assortment of goodies. So ways in which we're packaging it to make it feel like more of a lifestyle brand and less of a clinical medical device, I think are really going to help normalize this idea that condoms are just part of your everyday essential. You're going to get your lip gloss, you're going to get your hand sanitizer, and you're going to get your condoms. And those are 3 very normal everyday needs that you'll have.
Right. Can you get them in the women's hygiene section? Why can't they be there? Like right by the
Exactly.
pads or the cups. Now we have the
Those
discs.
typically, yes, no, typically the women's hygiene section is across from the condoms and family planning section.
Oh, yeah.
I've found, but yes, you're right. Why couldn't it be there? Why couldn't it be somewhere where it was more specifically targeting women as well? That would
Mm-hmm.
be a welcome change.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. So, outside of that, have you actually had now I know that you guys work just within your own business, but I don't know if you do you go to conventions where you actually get to see what it's like to be with the other condom makers, with the other people who are creating in the industry? And if so, what is it like to be a woman's voice inside this kind of male dominated industry?
We haven't been to that many conventions, to be honest. We did launch in April of 2021, so it was the height of the pandemic, and the expos weren't quite open yet, and we haven't explored that
Mm-hmm.
to date. Um, for us, I think, one thing we often like to clarify too is even this is a condom not specifically targeting women, but inclusive of women as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so it's truly, we often, because we're female founded and led, we get it's assumed that this condom is specifically just for women, but really we have a much sort of broader demographic, especially considering Gen Z is the most fluid generation that we've ever known, and so
Mm-hmm.
we're certainly not targeting women exclusively. That said, we do know that statistics are such that women are less likely to buy and carry condoms, and that is something we are targeting specifically. Um, with again, I think just education around reasons why condoms are important. And again, it's not just pregnancy and STIs. It has to do with vaginal health and the microbiome as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of ways in which we are actively targeting women as well.
I have read that you are working on including more inclusive language in your marketing and in the product. Are you focusing on the trans community, on the non binary community as well in your target market?
Definitely. So the LGBTQ plus community is definitely a core demographic for us,
Mm-hmm.
specifically because they've been so unrepresented typically, and also they are vulnerable to, because of access and education, they're vulnerable to STIs.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something where, not only is the way in which we're talking about sex and our sex education platform expansive to a multiplicity of gender and sexual expressions, we're also very active in the community. So we are, we donate to a number of clinics that target vulnerable youth. We are supporting events in the community. We've prides and we sponsor in Toronto. We were part of the World's AIDS Day ball, and so we're just trying to be active in the community and support the community as authentically as we can, just to show that this is really what we're about. We're not just saying it. We're not rainbow washing.
Right, right. Well, so I'm openly bisexual. I talk about a lot on my podcast. In fact, I just launched a nonprofit for bisexual women that I launched at the beginning of this
Amazing.
year. And one of the things that I talk about is that bisexual women are one of the most vulnerable cohorts within the LGBTQ community for STIs,
Mm,
for depression, all of these different things. But one is the physical health end. So it's very much resonates when you talk about the vulnerability of the LGBTQ community for so many reasons as a minority group,
hmm
you know.
No, absolutely. And I think that's why in our experience, when we've been talking with retailers, there has been such enthusiasm for this product because I think it's so clear that there's a white space here. I think that's so clear that there's too many people who are not being addressed, considered, and spoken to directly, and that something has to change. And so that's been really validating for us because we knew it, but we were also really pleased that, the buyers for some major retailers are aware and supportive of it as well.
Right, right. So on this journey with this product, were you planning on creating the educational platform simultaneously, or is that something that came before or after? How did you come to the decision to also be an educational space?
So it was always part of our strategy. Again, part of our research just, it was very alarming to us how stagnant sex education is, how bad the access is to the average person in North America. And and the fact that it hasn't evolved since the advent of the internet is something that, just shocks you because think about all the I mean, specifically think about porn and, how widely available it is and the fact that sex education hasn't even responded to the porn industry, it just makes you think twice. So we knew that sex education was needed to really be alongside the safer sex products that we were putting out there. And, from the first thing we did was redo the instructions of the condom because legally what we have to have in the condom box is FDA approved and it is a very heteronormative explanation of sex and how and between a man and a woman, and it ends with man ejaculating. So obviously we wanted to rewrite that, do a more open, playful exploration of how to use a condom for all bodies, and this notion that it can go on and doesn't necessarily end with the ejaculation of a penis.
Right.
So that was where we started, but then it's been evolving over time. We were intent at the beginning to sort of have the most comprehensive sex education we could, and we realized that's a huge endeavor. So we're evolving as we go, we're learning as we go,
Right.
which is also, we're responding to cultural events. So in Canada, when there was a law passed that made stealthing illegal. Stealthing is when a man takes off or
Yeah.
somebody takes off a condom during sex without the partner knowing. And we once that happened, we explored that and we wanted to get as much information about it as we could. And similarly in the US, when Roe v. Wade happened, we tailored our content to information around reproductive rights. So it's something that we are learning as we're going, and we are doing our best to be as inclusive, to take as many perspectives, to show as many perspectives, and also just make the content truly reliable, scientifically backed, but also truly relatable so that it's a place where it kind of feels like your older sibling you can come to and learn, ask the questions that you're not comfortable asking.
Right. Right. And have you found that that's been well received?
Really well received. It's something we are so pleasantly surprised that people are on our site, on the Learn section, and reading and really impressed with the content. We are having a harder time. Our goal was to really, again, we're talking about Gen Z here, so we are trying to meet our demographic where they are, which of
Hmm.
course is on social. We've run into some major censorship issues, obviously because of the nature of our content. Even though we've truly studied the community guidelines of TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, we do not we are not able to boost our posts. We are not able to we even the user generated content that we have is it doesn't get the views or the engagement that it should. So we're really struggling with getting shadow banned because our goal is to sort of make our content bite-sized, digestible, and spread it through social in a
Hmm.
fun and engaging way, but we're having a really hard time doing that. So we're pivoting and trying new things all the time, and it's also allowed us to sort of re-strategize to be in person at at events, at panels. We've been hosting discussions and sponsoring parties, and people are really excited to receive the product in person, but we want to be able to sort of get that general awareness online as well, just to spread as much education as we can, and it's been proving to be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. TikTok doesn't like me very much. That might surprise you, but I still get out there. I haven't noticed as much difficulty. Like Facebook doesn't seem to care as much, or Instagram. But it is interesting. I have found, especially feminist focused content around issues that affect women vulva owners, the LGBTQ community can be suppressed relatively easily. And there's
So
no
easy.
knowing why or how that looks. So it does take sort of finding your way around it. I just keep
This is
beating
it.
my way through it.
This is it. Same with us. I mean, we are trying. We've started new accounts. We've hidden other accounts. We will get there, but it's
Yeah.
just been a lot more challenging than we had anticipated. And of course, we knew the subject matter was at risk of getting flagged, but not to the extent that it has been.
Right, right. Well, you've got a double whammy, right? You're talking about condoms and you're a woman. So good
Yeah,
luck to you
exactly. Exactly.
fighting the good fight. So in production, what would you, well, we'll get to the production pain points, but for listeners who are curious about, or skeptical about how much different could, a condom's a condom, what would you say are the big benefits of using Jems as opposed to what they may have run into before grabbing condoms?
So I think one of the things, I mean, I think in general, it's from our reviews, we've heard it's a very comfortable, it's the right amount of lubrication, uh, and unless, you're in a situation where you want to add more lube, which of course is many, but we've also one of the things that I love hearing is it's the smell, the lack of smell that is
Oh,
so often off-putting that Gems doesn't have. And just in general, I think, knowing that it's one of those things, it's just knowing that there's nothing else in there that you're going to react to.
right,
Barring you have a latex allergy, uh, that's the only reason we actually can't call it non-toxic because latex is an allergy. So that would technically be toxic to somebody who has a latex allergy. But interestingly enough, we've found out that the percentage of those who have a latex allergy is actually quite small, but it's the other ingredients that are typically found in condoms that cause reactions that make people believe that they're allergic to latex. So
right.
even when people, when folks come to us saying, "I think I'm allergic to latex. I don't think I can try it," we're not trying to convince them otherwise, but we just say, consider the possibility that it was another one of the ingredients and not actually latex.
Right. People don't understand all of the stuff that goes into the production of things that go on your genitals. And there's not a lot of, oversight. I have experienced, as my listeners know, I tried a shit ton of sex toys. And oftentimes, after I've tried them out and I endorse them and I'll suggest them, people will bring up the price of the ones that I
Mm,
like. And what I always say is, I know these products are made with body safe material. Now, if you
hmm
don't mind putting something that could be potentially toxic on your clit, in your vagina, on your cock, lady dick, whatever it is you have,
hmm
then that's a different thing. But the oversight is concerning, and your genitals are very susceptible to, it's a very thin, delicate skin around your genitals. So anything that's put on a condom that is unknown can enter your body, your bloodstream, so on and so forth, and affect you.
So true. And from our perspective too, I mean, our product, like I said, it's made at the world's top condom manufacturer. It's all the rigorous testing and sort of insurance you need. But again, because it's not, we didn't add anything to it. We didn't, reinvent it per se, but it's so for that reason too, it's not a premium product. It's truly comparable with the other major industries from a price perspective. We just made sure it was exactly what it needed to be and, want it to be something that you feel comfortable buying, feel comfortable having it on your night table, make it a shame-free experience that you're proud to, keep have a safer sex product.
Right. When it came to production, have you done anything differently? You said you're having them made at one of the best manufacturers. What are some of the challenges you've faced? What are some of the things you've done differently?
So the biggest challenge we've faced is, our condoms are produced in Thailand, and getting condoms to North America is just challenging. Supply chain, it takes a really long time. So that, from an inventory perspective, making sure we have enough to supply our retailers, that's been sort of the biggest challenge. We didn't, because it is a medical device and there's such rigorous testing involved. We didn't change anything that would require further testing because that would have been a 10-year process to get it approved and, make sure that it was a reliable product. So yeah, it was just formulating it exactly how we wanted it, what we knew would be the most effective and useful formula, and that's what we did.
So I assume you use them and
Of
you're like
course.
you're like these are awesome. So
Yeah.
you've tested them yourself and can say
Yes.
that they don't keep.
Yeah. We have to, of course. It's so I actually prefer not to be on hormonal birth control. So and interestingly enough, this sounds like such a weird thing to say, but am more nervous to get pregnant after having children than than I was prior to having children.
Fuck yeah.
So,
you know,
so
you know, you know what happens once they come out of you. It is not
exactly.
easy.
So I am, it's for me again, it comes back to that, the wanting to be uninhibited, not wanting to have that lingering question mark of could this result in a pregnancy. So for us, it's been an amazing addition to our sex life because otherwise I think it just would have, I don't know, it would feel different.
Yeah, yeah. So there are so many ways to use condoms too that people don't think about. These aren't just for penis owners. I have seen on some of your social media promoting the use of how to turn it into a dental dam for those of you who
Hmm.
don't know. And this can be used between any partners that involved a mouth and a vulva. A dental dam is something that can be used as protection when you are giving a vulva owner oral sex. Also, if you are pegging your partner, or if you are two vulva owners using a strap on, I know when I have been with female partners, we have just, instead of washing in between,
Hmm.
I'm wearing the strap on, then you're going to wear it. Pulling the condom off and putting on another condom is the quickest way to just
Totally.
keep things moving. Or if you're having sex with a penis owner and you go from having anal sex to vaginal sex, you're going to want to have that protection for your pH balance and everything else as well. So condoms are key, in my opinion, if you are having good sex and even in the case of someone that doesn't have STDs, or even if you have an IUD. And again, for me, good sex is doing a lot of different things, and you don't want to
Hmm.
have to run to the bathroom and wash your body parts in between each thing you're doing, or your equipment.
So true. It's such a great way to reframe this notion of it being a barrier to good sex. It's actually helpful to having great, continuous, repetitive sex. I think that's such an amazing way to put it.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, in my very vast experience, I don't think people know. I do not think that the vast majority of people are having that kind of sex. I don't believe it for a second. I don't know that people really know how to keep it going. And a great way to do that is by having something that allows for it, which is a condom for me, from my perspective, is akin to having a sex toy. I want to start calling them all sex tools. I hate the idea of
Mm-hmm.
a toy. It's not just, it's not just this fun thing. It's part of your sex life, right?
I think that's such a good point. I love the idea of it being, I think not being a tool, even, something like a dental dam. I mean, that's got to change. We can't call it a dental dam anymore. We have to rebrand what that is
Nobody knows
referred
what
to,
that
right? Because
is.
what is less appealing than a
Yeah.
dental dam?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think how we're talking about these things, how we're um, presenting them is just such a key part of how we're normalizing condom use. And it's all part of, what we're trying to add to our sex education component, help use retailers to change where they're found, how they're bought, and hopefully therefore change the mindset of, condom users when they're carrying them, have them on their nightside table, or,
Right.
bringing them to a sexual encounter. I think this is all hand in hand.
Right. So, listeners, you can always go to my YouTube channel. It's at Annette Benedetti. I will have pictures on the video that you will be able to watch of our conversation so that you can see what these condoms look like, how they're different. And of course, links, we'll tell them at the end all the links and where they can buy your condoms. But I think what I want to end this with is any advice, again, up until the last 5 years. I am still running into partners who will, penis owning partners, cock owners. Men, listen to me, dudes. We got to have a talk. I am 48, and for at least the last 8-ish years or so, when you would think y'all, would be adult enough to be like, yeah, I've got to have a condom. Of course, I've got a condom. Yeah, let me put the condom on. Instead of me having to say, hey, do you have a condom? And you're going, oh, well, I might have one from like 3 years ago when I was like just joking around with my friend and I picked one up. I'm like, oh, come on. Come on. I've got plenty of condoms, but I also would like partners to be responsible enough.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm going to get to here is I know that plenty of women, vulva owners like me, are still having a hard time getting penis owners to put the condom on. And we can bring the condoms. We can have we can be comfortable. And I do feel like myself, most of the women I know live in a bubble over here. And I surround myself with sex positive
Mm-hmm.
women who are unafraid of, having the toys and equipment. But we don't have a problem bringing them. What is your advice to getting the person with a cock that needs to put it on the cock to do that? Do you have any thoughts on that as having gone through this process of creating them?
I Yeah, I think for us, it really comes back to flipping the conversation back to pleasure and that the amount of pleasure you're going to experience because of using condoms, because you're taking away not any of the risk, but as much risk as you can by using this condom, that you're going to have a really heightened, wonderful experience. And I think, maybe selling that side of it and making it seem, if the penis owner is partially responsible for that pleasure because they're wearing the condom, that, if that's a way you can sell it, then so be it.
Right, right, right. All right. So we'll keep trying to sell it. I would love penis owners out there who are listeners, and I know that you're out there because you email me, you search me down in my DMs, we have conversations. I would love you to check these condoms out, and I would love to get your feedback on them and your thoughts. And maybe on top of that, send me thoughts on how this process of condom wearing could be made easier in sexual situations. Let's start the conversation between the people that need to use them. Let's stop having it be awkward and embarrassing. You know, I even find to this day, if I'm with a new partner, having to bring that, it's not fun for me. Everyone's like, "Oh, Annette, you talk about sex all the time. It must not be a big deal." It is still. It's
Of
still
course.
not like I don't want to, right, say, "Hey, so do you have STDs? Even if not, do you got a condom?" How can we make this easier? How can we make it part of our sexy sexual experience to have the condoms, get them on, and use them? But check them out. How are they going to check out your educational platform and your condoms online? And then where can we pick them up?
So you can get our website is gemsforall.com. And of course, that's our handle on Instagram and TikTok as well. So our education is widely available through those channels. You can buy our condoms online. We're available on Amazon in the US as well. And we are about to launch at a major retailer, which we can't quite announce yet, but hopefully that will help in terms of being able to access them more widely.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Jems for All. Right. So, gemsforall.com, you're going to want to go there. I'm going to have links in the description of this podcast. I will definitely have something going up on She Explores Life, sending all of the information out to you guys. Let's support this woman-owned business because I think this is amazing. I think it's amazing for two women to take on this challenge and updating it so that we can keep our bodies safe, so we can keep our youth safe, and so we can make all people of all genders feel more comfortable when embarking on a lot of sexual adventure. I really appreciate you joining me today, and I'm excited to use your condoms.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. And I can't wait to see the conversation that comes after this podcast to see if anybody does have ideas on how to make this an easier um, moment in the process for vulva owners and penis owners alike.
Yes, I have been getting an influx of emails from my listeners, and I will be doing videos on follow ups and reading some of the emails that are coming my way. So, everybody, listen up for that. I did do a call out for the penis owners on this particular topic. Please, anyone of any gender, if you have thoughts, opinions on the condoms, how to improve this conversation, do reach out to me. You know how to get a hold of me, Annette, Annette, at sheexploreslife.com. You can find me on socials at Locker Room Talkin' Shots on Instagram, Facebook. Also, She Explores Life on Instagram and Facebook. My personal Instagram is being Benedetti. Find me on TikTok. I'm having fun getting shadowbound all the time. Locker Room Talk podcast. I hope that we get to have more conversations. I'm going to be checking out your educational platform, and maybe we will be able to have another conversation in the future. So,
I hope so. Thank you so much.
all right, cheers. I will see you in the locker
Cheers.
room.